Hashem Yisborach. Yom Sheni leParshas Boy Gimel Shvat Shnas Tavshnei Zayin Shiva Tiferes Avigdor. Today we want to discuss a important subject that has become a controversial one, and yesh emrim azoi and yesh emrim azoi. We want to try to clarify what is our Messiah in teaching this subject. The question is, how are we expected to get emunah? In yeshivas, there are no courses in other subject matter generally. There is Gemara and there is generally Musar. Here, Baruch Hashem, you learn a little Chumash. The question is, how does Hashem, how do the Gedolim, the Chachamim, expect us to acquire emunah, specifically in such a time of technology, and we are aware of all kind of interesting philosophies, and any guy who has a computer and has a fingers, and even today I don't even need fingers, can express his narishkeit and give over his viewpoints. Now, the Yisroel, how did the question is, in history, how did people expect to learn about Hamunah? How was the last door and the previous door supposed to learn about Hamunah? Hamunah is a big subject. A lot of aspects to Hamunah. It's not just believing in Hashem. It's many aspects. How are we supposed to know? How are our children supposed to learn if they aren't taught? So, some well-meaning folks have sat down in their comfortable armchairs, maybe with a pipe, maybe without a pipe, maybe in front of a fireplace, and look deeply into the fire, or the smoke was wafting up, breathing in deeply and pondering this question. And many people were moved to come up with a very interesting plan of how to teach emunah to our children. And I heard from a man who is well-intentioned and goes around the country teaching about emunah, and his message is that everybody today has questions, and the best of yeshivas and the best Beis Yaakovs, children are questioning Hashem. They're questioning his existence, they're questioning his abilities, they're questioning his role. And everybody heard of that Orach Chaim. That's the one thing everybody heard about. That when you deal with Bali Bechira, it's a free world, everybody can do what it wants, it's dog eat dog. and it's a rat race, and whoever has bigger teeth is going to bite you and eat you. Survival of the fittest, v'cheina, v'cheina. And there are people that get some secular studies, even in the halls of yeshivas, and they're exposed to the concept of evolution, and it's printed in a nice, big, thick book with thick paper, even a couple of pictures of the moon, of the sun, and some of the galaxies, and planets. Therefore, they think, oh, that must be something. If they have pictures of evolution, I had a picture, no shaykhs to what the SHLITA is, and they does. And they show you pictures. I remember looking at, as a kid, in the pictures of the Neanderthal man, prehistoric man, the barbarians, our first Altazedas, who are bande yold, bande gorillas, and the guy who drew the pictures, they're not pictures of them, of course, but the guy draws the pictures that look like, shapes of apes. They may try to make them look like that, and that makes it, that's the tziyur, is mashpia on a person's das. And now people have questions. So the canal, the shaila is. Now, the first thing you have to know is, there are two events in history that are the foundation of all of our emunah. Event number one was Yetzias Mitzrayim. And that was a massive event. The 10 Makkos, we explained from great minds, Chazal, Zoyar, Maral talks about it. The Eser Makkos was actually in line with the Eser Mamoris. When Hashem created the world, He said Yehi 10 times, and the world came into existence. And the Eser Makkos, each one stims with one of the Mamoris, but it stims backwards. For example, the first Makkah was Yehi Or. The first Maimer was Yehi Or. That wasn't the first Makkah. It goes backwards. And so on and so forth. We've discussed this at length here many times to explain how they coincide, the Maimaras. But we've explained that Yetzias Mitzrayim was a public educational course in a demonstration by the one who created the universe to show it to us bigolui. When Hashem created the world the first time, we weren't around. There was no human beings around. Adam was created last. But here, we were around. We're a great multitude of people, millions and millions of people, and we all witnessed Yetzias Mitzrayim. One of the greatest historical events, the birth of the Jewish people. But the lesson took about a year's course. It wasn't a short course, wasn't a quickie course. It was a course. Now, Hashem told us a mitzvah. That mitzvah is, you have to remember going out of Mitzrayim. How often do you have to remember that? You have to remember that every single day. A minimum of 2 times. But we mention it many, many more times. And it comes up, if you learn other areas of halacha or the Torah, there are numerous mitzvahs that we do that are associated Zeicher L'Tzias Mitzrayim. So we do many activities throughout the day to remember that Zeichi Yetzias Mitzrayim. So you have to know that's a core issue. There's a special mitzvah of the Higara Telebincha. Hashem wants us to relate this. We make a whole big show on Pesach by night where the father demonstrates that he went out of Mitzrayim, that he's going out of Mitzrayim, and he takes his child out of Mitzrayim with him by relating him that episode. That is a core of our emunah. Anoichi Hashem Elikech, the mitzvah emunah, asher hoitzesicha me'eretz Mitzrayim. You have to understand that. Besides that, we saw yesterday in the beginning of this Parsha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, L'man tisaper ba'oznei bincha uven bincha. Tell over the story. Relate it to them. Get it across. Transmit it. That's one core episode, fundamental episode, from where we learn Hashem taught us emun. That's where we learned emun. The second episode was Maimer Har Sinai. And over there also, HaKadosh Baruch Hu opened the heavens, Shiva Rakiyim, and he exposed himself in the most magnanimous fashion in a revelation that we can't comprehend today, where you could see voices and things that you could only see, you were able to actually hear, sights. It was, and Hashem came down and said, Anoichi Hashem Elikech. That's another core episode. And we're told in that episode, don't forget, remember that episode, and give it over to your children. Shamar lecha. Moy petishkach. Oh, but lest you forget. You got to transmit that. So you have to know that the way Hashem taught us emunah was from these two great episodes. Now, there are many aspects of emunah which we, through those details of emunah, we can understand creation, we can understand creatures, we can understand episodes that happen in our lives, in other people's lives, in Klal Yisroel's lives, when looked at through the prism of emunah. So the question is, how does Hashem expect Klal Yisrael to find out about emunah? Does he want workbooks? Is that what he's looking for? Does he think there should be a course for emunah? The answer is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu intends that parents should transmit that to their children. The greatest role that a parent has is not to bring up a happy child. It's not to try to provide the child with whatever he wants and needs, even though I didn't have that. I can't tell you how many times over again parents said, when I grew up, I was lacking, and I made a promise that my child will never lack. And I'm looking at them thinking, you know, you are one of the stupidest individuals that I'm meeting today. Where do you get this nonsense from? You know where it comes from? They read it in a magazine. They read it in an article. Or they saw it in some movie. I'm going to give my child to fulfill his dreams. What a loving parent. What a loving idea. What to do with parenting? That's like a teacher in university says, my dream is to teach my students to enjoy football, even though the course is a mathematics course and it's trigonometry or calculus and nothing to do with football. A person has to understand that this is the role and obligation of every father. Now, how do you give this over? How do you give this over? The answer is, you know how you give it over? You live by it. A frum father is expected, who grew up in the halls of a yeshiva, or one that did not grow up in the halls of yeshiva, but at a later point in life was exposed to the halls of yeshiva. Most people, individuals, are totally unaware what they're trying to gain in the yeshiva. What they're trying, they think they're learning how to learn Torah, how to understand Gemara, maybe a methodology, maybe a thinking process, maybe, I don't know. But what you're trying to learn is Amunah. That's what you learn in yeshiva. And the way it's learned, because you say over and over every day in every yeshiva, any religious moisid, they say over and over, I mention over and over and over. And we're expected to educate ourselves. We read Kriyas Torah over Mitzrayim. There's so many Parshas in Mitzrayim. We put on tefillin for Mitzrayim, put on tzitzis for Mitzrayim. There's nothing we don't do for Mitzrayim. There are so many mitzvahs, mamish, tens and tens of mitzvahs that are associated to Mitzrayim. You know what happened? The guy says, L'shem Yichud. He never thought that Hashem took him out of Mitzrayim. Whose fault is that? Your Rebbe didn't teach you that one when you bar mitzvah. It's your own fault. You rejected that teaching. You decided, I don't want to remember Yetzias Mitzrayim. When you said Shema, who told you not to think about Mitzrayim? So Baruch Hashem, Art Scroll came along, and they printed up a little few lines in English. When you read these sentences, be aware that you went out of Mitzrayim, it's a mitzvah. Wow. I was thinking, Art Scrolls here waking up the folks. They're waking up the Am. It's a Parsha Zav. That's like olive base. I'm surprised Art Scroll didn't write in the beginning of their siddur, before brachas, make sure you said Moida'ani. Because I'm sure a lot of people forget Moida'ani. Oh, they may have said it in kindergarten. They may have said it in first grade. Maybe they don't. Moida'ani, I don't say that. I met a girl with a family who father had very big payers. Very big payers. And a couple of kids had gone off in that family. They were struggling. And never understood why. Till more than two. And it was independent. It wasn't one mashpia and the other. And then I'll never forget, he had a daughter, fine daughter, a friend of one of my children. And they went around to ask who washes Negelwasser in the morning. And this girl didn't wash Negelwasser in the morning. High school girl. Now, know what that means to say? That in her family, this wasn't transmitted. Because you do this by osmosis. That's because everybody does it. It's like not washing the tilas yadayim. If you see a child who doesn't wash tilas yadayim, you know what you know? That in his family, they're not so makpid on the tilas yadayim. Unless the guy's going off the derech. But I'm talking as a regular person, it's not child. That's what's an indication. You have to know that Amunah and Yetzias Mitzrayim is a responsibility of the parents. Midos is very nice. Oh, I love these Midos contests. Some guy came up with how to make a Midos thing. and all the schools get introduced to midos, and they make papers and stories, and they give it out. We're talking about the core, basic issue. You don't go to school to learn midos. That's not what the education system is. You go into school to learn about Yiddishkeit. And Yiddishkeit begins with Emunah and ends with Emunah. To the degree that you're attached to Yetzias Mitzrayim, to the degree that you're attached to Matan Torah, to that degree, your kids have Emunah. That's what it's all about. Now, there's a famous Ramban. The Ramban says that what's the idea that a person should relate Yetzias Mitzrayim to their children. They should never forget it, and they should remember it and transmit it. So it's an interesting thing. The proof of Maimon Har Sinai is, you know what? Many Rishonim write that the proof is that the whole nation witnessed it. It's an episode that millions of people witnessed, and when you have something that millions of people witnessed, that's the greatest indisputable testimony that it happened. And to give you a little bit of an elaboration on that, I want you to know this, so in case any SHLITA, you ever meet a SHLITA, and you look at him, you tell the guy, excuse me, throughout the world and throughout history, there have been court systems. What does a court system attempt to do, Hilla?
Preserve order?
No, it pretends to try to discover evidence. When two people come, Reuben says, you owe me $100. Reuben says, you punched me in the face. You were mazik me, harakta shoyri, katzatz the netiyosai. Whatever the time is, what does the court try to do? Evidence. That's what you bring evidence to the court, and now the court rules upon evidence. The court never plays with Kabbalah. It doesn't say, let's go to Chaim Kanievsky and he'll make for us a magic and tell us he's guilty. No, they don't do that. They always base it on evidence. Throughout the Yiddish courts, Goyish courts, the preponderance of the evidence is what determines the case. That's what a court is. It's a place where they bring evidence and they rule based on the evidence. What is evidence? What is universal evidence, Hilla?
Proof of a certain existence.
What is universal proof? What is the universally accepted proof and evidence?
There's a God.
A court? The God? That what they're dealing with in court? No. Eliyahu? Aiden.
Oh.
Witnesses. So, that's what court. Is that a chiddush? No, I'm telling you, Devarim should. Witnesses. Everything is based, that is a universal. The Torah insists on how many witnesses? 2. I don't know of any society that demands more than 2. I know societies that say 1's enough, but all you need is a witness. Evidence. Now, it's amazing. And that's indisputable. If you would have asked me, don't say, what's evidence? Because if some guy comes to court, that's evidence. And I'll tell you something, yet evidence is better than scientific evidence. There's no better evidence than testimony. It's universally accepted, always was and always will be. Some shmoiga walks into court and said, I'm a witness. He puts his ponytail in his shirt. I saw a guy, I used to go to court sometimes on Chalamoit, my family to see what witness case. You see a guy take his ponytail, stick a thing. He was covering up all his tattoos with a shirt. Tried to button the shirt. I think the guy needed help. Someone helped button the shirt in the hole because he never wears a shirt. These guys, he's probably never told him how to button a shirt. Comes to the court. I want to be a witness. He said, "You raise your hand. You want to." The guy didn't know what he was doing there. I'm a witness. But I was a witness. Testify. Tell the truth, not but the truth. That's a witness. That's evidence. You kill people by saying evidence. So when somebody comes, I don't believe in evidence. It shows you have seichel like a cat's. Because if the whole world accepts evidence, you don't accept evidence. Now, what's the chance of 10 people witnessing a thing, and those 10 people arriving at the same thing? Very small. And here millions of people witnessed this event, and every one of them said 10 commandments. 10 commandments. It was actually a question what day it transpired. The 6th or the 7th of, but everybody agrees it was Shabbos. Kuli Alma thingy, it was Shabbos. The date is questionable. It was only between 1 or 2 dates. No one says 11 commandments, no one says 9, 10 main commandments, and 613 mitzvahs. And everybody says what happened, they all agree to what happened. It's unbelievable. That's called indisputable evidence. Millions of people witness something. The Ramban says there's another proof. Know what the next proof is? He says, someone believes something that is told to him by his fathers. Fathers don't lie. That's what Ramban says. Now, most people, you don't want to have chutzpah to argue with the Ramban, but you hear such a Ramban, you think, what? I know plenty of fathers don't lie. Remember, if fathers don't lie, so who are all the liars? Only sons? Fathers lie too. What do you mean? What do you mean fathers don't lie? So what does this mean, the fathers don't lie? So, I once heard the following thing. If you look in the Torah, when the Torah commands a person to transmit Har Sinai to his children, it doesn't say, remember. You know what it says? Don't forget. That's how it says it. Don't forget. Note the chilik is a remember is, and don't forget. Don't forget means put it into your conscious. Make it part of your subconscious. Connect with Matan Torah and Yetzias Mitzrayim as if it's your essence. Lo yishkach means don't allow it to become forgotten. When it says that a father doesn't lie to his children, it doesn't mean that a father teaches his child the emunah by rationally says, okay son, sit down now. I'm going to teach you emunah. Number 1, there is Hashem. Number 2, Hashem does everything. Number 3, it's not how we teach them. The father becomes a wet sponge. His essence is emunah. And he's teifeach al menas latfiach. It's something that exudes from him. It's something that pours out of his kishkas and his pores and his decisions. And the child sees that he lives with emunah. That a child accepts. And a child watches his father. Just like lahavdil elov havdolis. You have a father who's fakoift on football. There are fathers that their avodah zarah they worship is football. Once told a man who was getting closer to Yiddishkeit, I said, you have an Achilles heel, you have a weakness. Your biggest love is football. He said, my kids don't know it. So when I watch it, I go into my bedroom, I go into the closet, I sit on the floor with a radio and I listen. I said, you want to bet your kids know? Yeah, he wants to bet. So I told his wife. His wife had told me about it. She thinks it's a problem. And I said to the wife at the Friday night table, ask this question. What does Tati like best? I asked him, if you think they would ask, what do you say? He said, I think they would say Tati likes to do chesed. Tati likes to go to yeshiva and go to learn. Okay, fine. So his kids piped up. Tati loves football the most. The guy almost chalished. I never discussed it with them. You don't have to discuss it with them. It was coming out of his pores. They could see when it came time for the game, or near the big yearly game, the father was having symptoms, demonstrating, exhibiting all kind of the shakes. And he was in a rush. He was in a hurry to get to his bedroom. And I'm sure his kids opened the bedroom once in a while to see if Tati wasn't there. And they heard Tati in the closet learning his Hilchas football, studying his Kitzah Chayad, something that's going to abbreviate the life of a man. He was busy with this Narishkeit. You have to know that when a father gives over, even if a father is crooked, even if a father is deceitful, the father is going to transmit his narishkeit. Let's say a father's negative against Gedolim, negative against B'nai Torah, it's going to go over to his kid. Even if the father sends the kid to yeshiva, it's going to happen. Is the famous story I told you about the young boy who was going to Telz. His father sent the Telz because his brother and his sister went off the derech. He was mad and Orthodox. Father was very religious, but very frum. But he figured he tried it his way, sent his kid to a more modern school, and they went off. And he's very disappointed. How come they weren't as firm as him? Sent them to Telz, but he told them, don't become a black hatter. And don't become impressed by them. So of course the kid felt like a soft thumb in the yeshiva. He had no interest in learning. And the yeshiva told him it's not working out. So eventually they told him that he has to hire somebody to learn with him, to help him with his learning, to help him with this. They came to me and they asked him if I would do it. I said, I'm not interested. I don't take these young kids. I wasn't interested at that kufa in my life of doing it. But the father one day showed up in yeshiva and he called me and he said, I want to ask you, could you do me a favor? He said, of course there's going to be the remuneration, he tells me. I told him, oh yeah, very nice. I told him, how often do you want me to learn with your kid? Every day. He said, give him a hayshik. Give him a hayshik. I said, sounds like well, you tell me it sounds like some kind of an allergy or something, hay fever. So what a hayshik? Give him a hayshik. Okay. I said, you mean a hayshik? Inspire him to be interested. I said, what's the remuneration you're giving? He said, I understand, $25 a week. I said, excuse me? I said, I'd quicker do it for free than do it for $25. I mean, $25 is humiliation. You want me to learn your kid 45 minutes to an hour a day? I said, and you want me to give him a cheshik? I said, let me ask you a question. Does he have any other tutors? He said, yeah, he has a mathematics tutor. So what do you pay him? I think he told me $50 for a half hour. I said, you pay $50 for half hour for math, and you're paying me like $3 to $4 something a week, and that's for that same amount, for double the amount of time, and you want me to give you the cheshik to do this, huh? I said, I won't even think about it. He said, okay, what's it going to take? I said, $250 a week. That's my condition. Whoa, this guy's a very rich guy. He has a plaque here. But, I said, what should we call it? I said, okay. I said, that's my terms. Came back and said, okay, I'm going to do it for you. I said, this is how it's going to be. Every Sunday, you're going to bring me $250 cash. Okay. He didn't understand why, but my plan was, because I knew what this guy's going to do. He's going to say that I'm a Schnorr Deluxe, and he's supporting me. This is his thing. So every Sunday he used to come, I used to take $200 out of the envelope and give him $200 at the Ndava. It's my donation to help you get through the week. He used to say, no, I don't need it, I don't want it. I said, I insist, you must take it. So one day the kid says to me, my father supports you. I said, your father doesn't support me. I said, your father's a bigger star than me. I give him $200 a week. I give your father 200. He said, what? I said, yeah. I said, I give your father $200 to live with you. Also, the kid is that. I told the kid, you know how important this is to learn Torah? I told him, you want to go to college? I told him, if you fail in yeshiva, you can always go to college. I have nothing against the guy going to college. If you don't make it in the yeshiva world, just go to college. I said, but if you can make it in yeshiva. And he went to his father, told his father that. Oh, his father came one Sunday and he grabbed him by the jacket. He said, what are you doing to my son? I said, I'm doing what you asked me to do. I'm giving him a cheshik. He says, what'd you tell him? To go to college. If he fails, to go to college. I said, come with me. I took him upstairs to the Ezra's Nashim. They have the windows over there overlooking the base measures. I'm looking down. I said, look down. You see any African Americans there? You see any Koreans? How about Japanese? Any Vietnamese? Any Italians? No. Nothing. What do you see? Only Yiddish and the Shabbos. Learning Torah. Now let's go to a college. What are we going to see if we look down at the college? We're going to see Kol Tzurua, V'chol Zav. We're going to meet anybody and everybody, whoever comes once. Kol Dich V'nyes V'yechel. They all you give me the poor, the tired, give me them all. They take them all. I said, so if your kid could make it in this place, that's a tremendous accomplishment. And if he doesn't, he could always go there. I'm trying to give him a cheshik. You know what the problem was? The problem was the father got to him first. So every time I had to convince him that his father was wrong. I saw what it meant. A child believes a father more than a Rav, more than anything. If a father gives over a kid. One day the father came up with this gewaldige shtickle Torah. I remember it was gewaldig. Misha Beirach, he said. The father came, told his son, see son, we have a Misha Beirach here about people who give nice to them there, Lamar, Yain L'Shtik, Yain Kiddush, they give money for tzedakah, they give money for this. Do you see them mention anybody who sits on the bench and kvetches the bank? Yeah, I don't see them say that over there. We get the Misha Beirach, it's for us. That's the Iker. So the kid comes to tell me this father's shtickle Torah from Shabbos Tish. I told him, your father made a big mistake. Big mistake. That was a very bad shtickle Torah. I said, you know, before that shtickle Torah, there are two pieces in Aramaic. You know why they put them in Aramaic? How come this one's in Hebrew and that's Aramaic? Because if you ever study it, you'll see in English what it means. We're giving a Misha Beirach to all the Talmidei Chachamim who are sitting and learning wherever they are. We're blessing them, their families. We're giving them brachas, the whole Klal Yisroel's Mevarich, their mamish. That's that. But then they felt bad. Some guy may look at it and say, hey, how come we're not here? I'm a college guy. I also want a bracha. Okay, we'll talk for you. For you, we'll talk in Hebrew. Misha Beirach Aviseinu. You give a little tzedakah, ner lamor, yayin lekiddush. Yishlach lecha refuah shleima v'achamayim. You should be zeichet also taif. What shaykh is it? I tried very hard, but I saw this dogma of the Rambam. What a father believes, he gives over to his kid by osmosis. It's transported. It's like a Bluetooth. A father is a Bluetooth. What do they call that thing when you send it across? When you're beaming it, it gets beamed to the child. What's the coupling called? The coupling is called what? Pairing. The two devices get paired, and they beam from one another. You can't see the pair. Who's that with us? You don't see them talking to each other. You don't see them hitting each other. Garnished. Besteht ein Leben im Zweite, and boom. A father transmits to the kids. You have to know that's the pshat. Whatever you are and whatever you believe, that's what your children are going to receive. The way Emunah is expected to be transmitted is by a father and a mother talking about Yetzias Mitzrayim and living it. They talk about Mount Torah and they live it. It's not just for kindergartners. It's not a rational thing you have to bring proofs you have to go to school for. It's by osmosis, it's the peering. You beam it to your child. And if Rachmana litzlan, you're dealing with children whose fathers are not giving over, like Rebbe Ber Vachfeigel said, how come today the fathers aren't giving over Emunah? The Ramban says fathers don't lie to their kids. You know what he said? They're not fathers. That's the Tiferes. Fathers don't lie to their children. Father, emes etatis, tell their children and beam their children and pair with their children and give their children the Emunah. But people that are tipa srucha donors, they don't give any peering. They give over the srucha. That's what they give over. They give over nonsense and falsehoods and deceit. That's what they transmit. And that's what we have to understand. Our job as parents, you want to know why your kid asks questions? Do you have questions? How come your kid didn't hear from you this? How come your kid didn't hear from you Yetzias Mitzrayim? He only heard that that guy was doing something and Yenin was doing something. He heard about your problems with Hashem, heard about your challenge with Hashem. How come there's no this? How come no that? How come there's this problem? How come there's that problem? He heard from you all the time. You're mamish the tainus of Parah. He heard from you all these apikush tainus. He never heard from you there's Hashem. You thought it was cute that somebody said Hashem. That's what people think. It's cute. And the kid said, who made the world? Hashem. Who does this? Hashem. So the father said, oh, it's very cute. The father doesn't believe it. You're not a father. You're not ready to be a tata. The father has to be educated. The father has to get himself in his kishkis. And that's how you transmit it. When you go next to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, go next to a Rav, you go next to a tzaddik who believes and lives in Emunah, there's no fakis anymore. You know there's Emunah. If he says this is what happens, I'm not sure this is what happened. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to give over. Avos are not manchil, do not bequeath sheker livneim. The whole kavan and the whole tachlis of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the revelation of Hashem revealing Himself openly, was that it should be something we live with openly, and you should go into your ruach, it should become part of you, and you should be able naturally to give it over. That's what you want to do. HaKadosh Baruch Hu performs miracles, huge set in Mitzrayim, and He ingrained it in our genes. He put it in our system. And Matan Torah also. The Rambam says that if a person questions Matan Torah, the event, the Yadua that his father were not at Har Sinai. They weren't at Har Sinai. It's in the Kishkis. It's embedded in the genes. It's been imported, beamed into the system. That's how you masap. Talk about it's a pashtazar. You pashtazar. That's what a person does. Kodesh Baruch Hu should help us get these lessons and transmit these lessons.